Okay, what are you saying, people? Welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen of the pairs we'll be analyzing today. Like always, make sure you stay to the end of the video because I will be going through each pair, analyzing what happened this week and potentially what can be happening next week as well. But I hope you enjoy the video, and with all that said, let's get into it. Okay, so first up we've got Euro USD like always. Now for this pair we did see a nice move to the upside this week, which was expected. Again, we've been consolidating in that mess for quite some period of time now, and I'm expecting that breakout, expecting a dive to the downside for the DXY. See some dollar weakness, and that has affected a lot of USD pairs across the board, especially Euro USD, which did see some upside. Now, targets I had for Euro USD for this breakout initially was this kind of area here, nice supply, support, resistance that never got retested, and also this area up here. As you can see, we're struggling to get past this area at 1.144, and we haven't quite made it to 1.15200. So with that said, potentially we could be seeing some downside, and price might not actually come back to revisit this area. So for Euro USD, I'm mainly focusing my attention on the kind of break and retest area of this consolidation, because when we broke out, we never got the retest. I think there was some news that helped explode us out of that consolidation. So I do think on the retest, we could either find some support and really continue, or we could actually come back and see some more downside for Euro USD. So if we can hold this on the retest, looking at price simply coming back to these highs and potentially all the way up there. If not, we break back underneath. I'm looking at Euro USD coming straight back down to the support, which gave us the move to the upside. So as I drop onto the 4H, you can see we've seen some downside on Friday, a bit of dollar strength. You can see Euro USD is taking a little bit of a hit there. So we'll see what happens on the retest come early next week. If we can hold this, fantastic. We can look for continuations. Like I said, first target would obviously be the highs, and then if we can push past that, we can push into 1.152. If not, and price breaks through this area, we'll look for the retest, because at that point we'll be back inside the consolidation, back inside the range, and we'll be looking for a move to the lows of that area, into those of that support at 1.12800. So that's the plan for next week. If we can hold it, simply look for longs and continuations. If not, we're back inside the range and simply looking for the retest to go short for Euro USD for next week. Okay, so next up we've got USD JPY. Now this pair we did see some nice downside this week, which was expected. I did say to you guys that if we can hold underneath this previous swing high on the retest, we can get into some nice sells and look to short this pair, because we had that false break of the high, price snapped back below, retested with that bullish candle there, and we did see price roll over. So quite a nice move there for USD JPY. Now on the higher time frames, price is still quite bullish. Going into the weekly, going into the monthly as well, price is still quite bullish, but we are trading in a key, very key area where potentially we could look to roll over. You can see if I highlight all these wicks here, price is still trading in this area of resistance, so we could still potentially see a reversal and some downside. So I'm looking at potentially USD continuing this bearish move after some retracement, of course, back down into these lows here. So I'm mainly looking at this area of resistance, which is 114,400, and this area up here as well, which is 114,800. So I'm looking for some retracement, because we've seen quite a big drop there for USD JPY, so we do need to recover some of that, but I do think we could be getting ready for some more shorts. So coming to next week, sticking with that short bias, maybe if we completely break through these levels and see a nice high low form, then I'll probably change my bias to bullish. But I'm looking at some more downside now for USD JPY, all the way back down into 112,800. So first I want to see some retracement. Of course, we've had quite a drop there, so I want to see some healthy retracement. Look for that next lower high, either at one of these two major levels here, 114,400 or 114,800, and from there we'll be taking shorts. First target, obviously will be that low that has just formed. But I'm expecting that to break and push into 112,800. So that is the plan next week for USD JPY. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to USD CAD. So USD CAD, we did see quite a nice move to the downside this week, breaking out of this really key area of support. Again, we were expecting this move because we were looking at, expecting some dollar weakness. So looking at USD CAD breaking through the support, and I did say our targets will be 1.25 down here, and you see prices right now holding on to that level. So naturally coming into next week, I'm looking for some retracement, after this bearish leg to the downside. We're holding on to this 1.25 level really nicely. So I'm looking at a push to the upside. We broke through this key level at 1.26500 midweek, and we never came back for a retest. So that key support is now turned into fresh, strong resistance. And I think price could be naturally looking to retrace back up into that level, maybe reject it, maybe break back above. We'll find out when we get there. But I'm looking at some longs for USD CAD back up into that level. So jumping onto the 4H time frame, you can see price kind of did break below 1.25, got back above, and sort of kind of dipped below a couple times before we're seeing that momentum there on Friday. So I'm looking for some retracement coming into early next week, back down into the 1.25200, 1.25 area, looking for that next higher low, looking to go long, back up into that key resistance at 1.26400/500. So that's the plan for the week. Bit of a trend line potentially forming as well. Could use that as nice confluence, looking to go long into that level. So mainly bullish bias here for USD CAD. If we break through 1.25, then maybe you can look for continuations and look to sell from it. But for me, I'm looking for the retracement of that move back up into that key resistance there. So bullish bias coming to the next week for USD CAD, looking for some slight retracement and looking to go long back into 1.26400 for next week.
Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but if you are enjoying the content and you find it useful, make sure you go hit the subscribe button down below, and also make sure you drop a like as well. It really does help the channel out. But anyway, back to the video.
Okay, so next I've got Euro Pound. So Euro Pound, this pair hasn't done much this week at all. You can see if I draw a box around the price action, we're just moving sideways. Nothing really happened for Euro Pound. We're consolidating. So for Euro Pound, I still do have my bias on the higher time frames, the weekly time frame. I'm still looking at price getting to this major level of support at 0.83. You can see we had a nice little bottom there and got that colossal move to the upside. And I think Euro Pound slowly is just moving towards that same 0.83 area. So target's still down at 0.83. Taking that information onto the lower time frames, especially the 4H, you can see the consolidation in a little bit more detail here. So that's our major support. Our price is failing to break through. That was a false break earlier in the week, and this is the major resistance which price is struggling to break through as well. So simply just waiting for a break of the low, a retest, and looking for the continuations. That is the main trade, the main setup I'm looking for this week for Euro Pound. Still looking at those bearish continuations. You can see the trend's bearish. Everything's pretty much bearish with Euro Pound. So not really trying to go long. Potentially there could be some retracement on this pair. I'm aware of that. It doesn't have to get to 0.83. So if that does happen, we'll be looking for the break to the upside, strong impulsive break, retest of that, and we can potentially go long into this area here. Strong level of resistance, supply around 0.84100. So those longs potentially could happen as well. Like I said, previously in weekly analysis, I'm not really trying to trade the ranges. I'm more trying to trade the directional of the higher time frames. So I'm not really too keen looking at trading between that support and that resistance there. Mainly looking for the breakout. So if we can break to the upside, great as well. We'll look for the retest, and if it's a nice setup, could look for longs into 0.841. If not, we break to the downside, we'll be looking at sells and looking for a push into 0.83 there. So that's the plan for the week. Just looking for the breakout, the retest, and looking for either a continuation to the downside or reverse it back up. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to Aodu USD. So Aodu USD, we started off quite bullish. I was mainly focusing on this level for the week, seeing if we can hold underneath that. We did for a couple of days, or if we did break above. I did say if we break above this level, I'm looking for push back into highs, potentially some new highs. And we did see that quite aggressive move. However, we failed to sustain those highs and price came crashing down on Friday there towards the end of the week. So we potentially could see price rollover. This price action is quite corrective. We're trying to go bullish, but AUSD is having a hard time doing that. You can see overall this is our main impulsive bearish leg. This could be retracement of that, and we could see continuation. If you go into the higher time frames like the weekly, you can see price has had that push. This could just be the retracement. Overall, looks like we're respecting this support here on the left as resistance. So we could see some downside coming into next week. So my main bias is short. Again, it's not the best price action in the world for AUSD. Overall, we're holding on to this kind of support here on the left term resistance at 0.73. So I'm looking at price coming back down into this support here. Very strong area of support. Again, it held that big move there. We came back to retest it for a few days there not too long ago. So I'm looking at a push back down into 0.71, 0.71250 area for next week. But I do want to see some retracement dropping down onto the 4H. I'm mainly looking at this level here. Really nice resistance there, was acting as support for that consolidation. Looking at price retracing back up into this level here, forming a lower high and then rolling over back down into that target on the higher time frame. So short bias this week for AUSD. If we do snap above this and put in a higher low in, then yeah, we could be looking bullish for the break and retest and look for continuations higher. But for me, I'm mainly leaning towards the bearish side of things for AUSD. So you can get a nice entry around there after a bit of retracement. And then looking to take profit around the 0.71250, 0.71 area for next week. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD is still looking quite bearish here on the daily. Again, we still do have that bearish bias coming into the week, looking for continuations. Had two targets for the week. 0.85 was one of them. We hit that nicely, and I was looking for 0.84500 slash 0.84, the next psychological level beneath that. Because looking on the higher time frames, I still do think there's a lot more downside for NZD CAD potentially coming back down into this major support here on the weekly. So for me, I'm still very bearish for this one. You can see on the weekly time frame, you kind of had this major level of support that price looks like it's breaking out of. So the next key level is down here. So naturally, that's where I'm expecting price to go. Unless on the weekly we push back above, and then I'll probably look to change my bias. But I'm anticipating the breakout essentially. I'm looking for price to continue bearish. So dropping onto the daily time frame, actually if I drop to the 4H, make it a little bit clearer. So we've had this major swing low here on the left that I'm looking for price to now hold as resistance, because we broke below midweek, we pushed back above, so a bit of a false break of that area, but now we're back below. So if we can hold this as resistance, we're looking for some sells here, roll back down into that previous low, and then potentially 0.84. Again, up to you where you want to target your trades, but like I said, if this does break out on the weekly, we could probably eventually head down to 0.84, or you could look for a swing just back down into that previous low at 0.85. So mainly looking to see what price does there. If not, we can't hold that, we push back above, we might be seeing price take a bit of retracement, because we've had quite a strong bearish leg here, so price might want to retrace first. I'm looking at this support here, term resistance, which we never got the retest of. And if you do push back above this, looking for buys on that low could be a nice entry, and then targets at that 0.86400 area for the retest. So mainly looking to see how price can react with this level this week. Stay below, I'm anticipating continuations. All time frames are looking pretty bearish, but unless we get back above, then we could potentially take advantage of some retracement back up into the 0.86 400 area. So that is the plan this week for NZD CAD. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at pound NZD. So pound NZD still looking very bullish here. Again, mainly having a sell bias, because we've seen quite a big push to the upside. So we're expecting price to retrace, and we're coming to a very strong high time frame key level of resistance here. So as you can see, price previously respected this area, big move to the downside, again big move to the downside, and now we're back at this area. So overall, we're expecting to see some downside for pound NZD, but like I said, the price on the daily chart is still looking quite bullish, and we're still seeing those continuations. So do be careful, but We'll be looking for shorts this week. Again, if price just rips through, breaks through the resistance, then we'll leave it alone, wait for price to settle again. But if we can find some resistance here, double top potentially could be forming, we'll be looking to take advantage of some nice sell setup. So we're coming back into the highs. So let me just mark that out, back to the highs here, where you put those wicks in before we did roll over. So naturally, if you can respect this area again, we'll be looking for that double top, push into the neckline, but we could push this further. If not, and we push through this area, we'll be looking at 2.025, which is this area of resistance here, just above the area we're trading at. So we potentially could push a little bit higher into that area before we do roll over. So we'll also be looking at sell setups at the 2.025 area. And again, looking for price to sell over. So if we do get a push up into that second area of resistance, we'll be looking for just a push back into here, because this will be acting as support, of course. But if we can hold this, we definitely can push the trade a lot further. Naturally, the first target will be that low there, because if that is a double top, of course, that will be the neckline of the double top. Looking for price to push into 1.99500, and if we can push through that, potentially looking at a push back up into this level on the daily. Resistance will return support at 1.97. So like I said, mainly a bearish bias this week. Overall, the market is still very bullish, but we're looking for the market to find that level where potentially we could reverse, see some retracement, and looking for some downside, because it is starting to run out of that bullish momentum, starting to exhaust. So we want to be the seller stepping in, looking for take advantage of the reversal essentially. So looking for sales at 2.01 at those highs. If not, we push a little bit further, we'll be looking at sales from 2.025, looking for overall swing back down to 1.97 for pound NZD for next week. Okay, so next up we've got CAD JPY. So this pair has seen a bit of upside and a bit of downside this week. I was looking for price to retrace back up into this key level of support, resistance. We'll be acting as support again, nice psychological level. Was looking for price to come in here and then turn bullish. However, we did see that continuation early on this week, but we have come back down. So potentially that test of that level could still be on. Looking at the price action in the 4H time frame, we're still having a hard time to go bullish here. We had a strong level of resistance here, which is formed kind of last week coming into this week as well. We broke above, failed on the retest, and came straight back below. So I do think the market can roll over into 90. Also taking a look at the higher time frames like the weekly, we do have a very strong level of resistance here. If I take that across, you can see we're having a hard time breaking through it right now. So we might see CAD JPY roll over in the next coming days and potentially weeks as well, if a few levels can break. So I'm looking at some retracement to the upside, because it does look like price is holding onto this price swing low here. So hopefully we can see some retracement back up again, form a lower high, invite us for another opportunity to sell the pair. And I do think we can look for target 90. Which is around that level there. Of course, we'll be looking at this support here, because 9600 seems to be holding quite strongly. But if we can break through that, we can probably stretch the trade into 90 around there. So I'm mainly looking at some retracement first for CAD JPY, but I do have that sell bias. I'm looking at pushing to 90. Then potentially, if we can hold 90, there could actually be some long positions, to take it right back up again, because the higher time frames are still quite bullish, but we're holding very key resistance on the higher time frames on weekly. So if we do respect that, CAD JPY does have a good chance at rolling over. So I'm looking at sales around the 91,500 mark, see if we can roll over from that, and targets for the week 90, and then potentially if we can hold that, can look for some buys back up again for next week for CAD JPY. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at pound USD. So pound USD quite bullish this week. Did find some resistance towards the end, but we were looking for 1.365, 1.37 this week, and you can see we smashed right into those levels. So taking a look at this from a higher time frame, we're coming to a very key level of support. Now turn resistance. You can see we found support here. It's gave us a very strong move to the upside. Now we crashed below that, and now we're coming back into that level as resistance. So potentially we could see pound roll over from this area. You can see we're starting to stall on the daily with those wicks to the upside. So we could be seeing potentially price see some downside Also factoring in this trend line here with those significant points. So price, for pound USD is at resistance, and we've seen such a quite substantial move to the upside. You do expect this time for price to retrace now for pound. So I'm looking at downside this week. Main targets would be this level here at 1.35750, we'll say, which is mainly this support here taken across, and also potentially this support here. Again, I'm not expecting price to hit this level, just above 1.34 within a week, but that's potentially where we could see, the downside momentum head to. So I'm looking at sales for pound next week. Not really too interested in buys. For me, the up move's already taken place. If we do see some continuation, I do think it'll probably be short-lived. So I'm looking for price to roll over. Hopefully we can see some upside at the start of the week, just looking for retracement to get involved. We have this nice support there, will be term resistance, looking to push into 1.35800. If not, we can take a look at the highs up here, just coming back into the trend line, and same thing, looking for shorts, not interested in the longs at all really, and looking for price to roll over into 1.35800. So that's the bias for next week. Either we get a nice break and retest, or we see a bigger retracement. There's a chance that we might just dump to the downside. If that's the case, we probably missed the opportunity. But if we can retrace, we'll be looking for sales to take this back down into 1.35800 for next week. Okay, now we move on to pound CAD. So pound CAD this week had a bearish bias, looking for a push back into 1.71. Sorry, we did see that move quite early in the week. We had a slight retracement and we rolled over back into those lows. So like I said, I'm still quite bearish on pound CAD. No, price is looking fairly bullish right now, but I'm expecting price to roll over. I'm looking at the higher time frames, the weekly, and I do think price is getting ready to roll over. I think we're looking at the next major lower high. I do think we can come back and attack those lows. So again, a bit more of a bold call there, but as for price action, that's what I can see from the charts. So I'm looking at mainly taking this lower. Again, we're having a tough time breaking through this support here at 1.71, but if we can break through, I'm looking at a push back into the 1.7 area. So pound CAD for me looks like it is retracing. You can see it's coming to 1.71. Very corrective price action as it moves higher, so it's struggling to go bullish anyway. So I'm looking at push back down into this kind of major area where we whipped, and then we saw that continuation, which is around that 1.7 area, the next psychological level below 1.7. So looking to see if we can retrace back into this next lower high or into this major level of resistance up here. Either one, just looking for some nice bearish price action, looking for our next lower high to get into some shorts. So yeah, pound CAD for me, again, first target has to be 1.71, because you can see we are respecting this level very well, and it well could be that we roll over into 1.71 and see price retrace against us. So first target will be 1.71, but if you can break through, looking at 1.7, and like I said, if you do take a slightly deeper retracement, still looking for that next lower high back into 1.7 and then 1.7 down there for next week. So not really bothered with longs at all, just mainly looking at shorts, and target is 1.7. Okay, so now we're going to move on to pound JPY. So pound JPY overall moving sideways this week, not too much. I was looking for bullish continuation for pound JPY this week back into 158. We tried to do that, but we failed at the highs. Formed around 157,500, and we rolled over a couple times there. As you can see, rolled on once at the start of the week, and towards the week we rolled over again. So pound JPY looking a little bit bearish there on the 4H daily. I'm still have my main focus at 156, which is this really nice area of resistance over here, kind of like a major previous swing high of the market, and now we're holding above that. So I'll be looking for sales for pound JPY if we can snap back below this, and I'll be looking for a push into this resistance here. We'll return to support at 154,500. If not, I still do believe we can push bullish, at least back into those highs, and potentially into 158 all the way up there. So I'm mainly looking at pound JPY to see what it does with 156 Dropping to the 4H, you can see we snapped through that, and now we're coming back for the retest. So if we can hold on to this, I do think pound JPY can push a lot further to the downside. Like I said, 14500 I'm looking at. If not, we snap back above, start holding a support again, we might end up pushing bullish, because even though the 4H is looking, looking like it might turn over, if we're looking at the daily, looking at the weekly, we're still very bullish on this pair, and we can still easily see another bullish candle pushing and taking out those highs. So need to respect the higher time frames, but if certain levels give way, especially the 156, then I will be shifting my bearish mainly to shorts, looking at 154,500. I mean, if pound USD does roll over, there's a good chance that pound JPY will roll over as well. So yeah, if you get below 156, shorts will be looking good, and targets will be 154,500 down there. If not, and we respect the level and give us some good price action above the level, we'll be looking at longs. Firstly, back into this key resistance here, because we respect this a few times now at 157,400, but then we'll be looking at 158 up there. So that's the plan next week for pound JPY. Okay, so up next we've got gold. So gold, we saw a bit of a move to the upside this week. We're back at a very key level at 1830, which we're just about holding. So for me, I'm going to keep it really simple with gold, because this level here is very strong. You can see the reaction previously with this level. It's a very strong level of resistance. If we can break through this, I'm simply looking at a push into this support here. Never got the retest there on that 1850 mark. So if we get above that, simply going to look for a break and retest of this level around the 1830, 1831. Looking for the entries on the retest, and simply looking for continuations. You can see if I go left, pretty clean price action to the downside, so not much resistance in our way. If we can break above that, looking for push into 1850. If not, I do think gold can roll over, because this is a very strong level, and if we do hold it coming into next week even, I do think we can come back and revisit this support at 1788. So overall, a little bit torn with gold. I can see it pushing bullish, I can see it pushing bearish as well. I'm just going to play it quite simple with this one, keep my eyes on this level, see what price action we get around there. So far we're looking quite bearish, so if you can see some retracement and a rejection again, that could be a nice entry confirmation. If not, and price goes and breaks through on the retest, looking at 1850 area for next week. So gold sells if you hold below 1830. If we snap above, looking at continuations back into 1850 gold for next week. Okay, so last but not least, we've got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin overall, we're seeing rejection from 40k, which was expected coming into the week. I said we could potentially see a bounce from here. Again, Bitcoin's not really showing much strength here, so it potentially could roll over back into 40k next week, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. So we could be looking at short start of the week, but if we do roll over back into 40, hold that, could develop some nice longs. I'm mainly looking at this level here around the 44 mark, which you respected earlier in the week, and also this support here, which will be term resistance, which we never got the retest of, so still fresh resistance. Price could be drawn to that area before rolling over. So potentially, like I said, potentially some shorts at the beginning of the week, but if you can hold 40k again, show some nice double bottom, price action, rejection, can look to go long and push this a lot further. Again, I'm not sure if Bitcoin will push all the way back up to highs from 40k. Price action is not looking too good in the higher time frames, so I think we might roll over, but if that support does hold, can catch a nice bounce to the upside for Bitcoin there. So I'm mainly focused on 44k for price to roll over, and if not, 46k up here for price to roll over as well, back down into 40. Then if you can hold 40, like I said, could be some nice longs later in the week. So that's my analysis for Bitcoin. Shorts at the start of the week, then longs maybe towards the end. We'll see if 40k holds. If it doesn't hold, it might open a lot more downside for this pair. So something to keep an eye on for Bitcoin, but overall short bias to start off, and then if you can hold 40, looking to go long from there.
Okay guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed that and found that useful. Like always, any questions, agree or disagree, let me know in the comments down below and I will get back to you. If you do enjoy the video, if you do enjoy the content, leave a like on the video. It does help the channel out. Subscribe if you want to see more, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any uploads as well. But hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all next week.